Hello and welcome back to Shelf Center. This is Bryce. Thank you so much for stopping by. Thanks for liking and subscribing if this is something you end up enjoying. You never know, it could happen. Anyway, I've got a monthly update and then a monthly TBR. So we've got the update for October and then our TBR or might be read for November. There's a lot of books in the running, let's be honest, as usual. The problem is I want to read all of the books and I have about this much time to actually read. I'm sure you don't relate in any way. That's how it goes. October was a little rough month count wise, but I think pages wise it was pretty decent. So I have to give myself at least the benefit of the doubt for that. So jumping into October, what did I read? How did it do? This was my horror reading month that I had planned, that I got votes on, even through a poll. And so we did it. We did follow the plan somewhat. There was a bit of a mid-month update that I had to give to kind of change some things around, so we'll get into that. But basically, I did read Swan Song, I did read Frankenstein, which was the winner of the poll that I had my lovely audience vote on, so I really appreciate that. I had meant to read Sandman Act 2, so that is going to get pushed, so we'll talk about that later, but I did not get to that. That was part of the plan, and I did not get to any more on that list of the poll list, but I do, again, want to get to more eventually, maybe next year. So Swan Song, absolutely loved it. It is a huge book, though. It's one of those chunky 1,000-pagers, somewhere around there, depending on what metric you use or what page count or hardcover or paperback you use. It's quite large, though, and it's by Robert McCammon. It was excellent. It's absolutely amazing. I need to do a review on it. It's epic in like every sense of that word. It's so good. It's got enough similarities to The Stand by Stephen King that but it's in all the best ways, I think, in the epicness and the end of the worldness and all that. But also a lot of differences, enough differences that it's easily its own book. It's its own characters, its own craziness. I mean, just kind of on the outset of it, they both are absolutely, and maybe that's what I need to do is just the comparisons between the two, and that'll be my review. But on the outset, really, you've got, I mean, they're both chonkers. That's the similarities. They both follow a cast of characters that have some kind of convergence. Obviously, that's what, makes it fun. But what we're dealing with Swan Song is nuclear holocaust, and then versus The Stand is more like sickness, disease that covers the land. And again, each one, there's limited survivors of each. They immediately come together in bands that rove the place. Swan Song, I felt like they were a little more like The Road by Cormac McCarthy, just like pretty bad. If you see the cover, it's pretty devilish. It's rough, but man, it's a compelling story to say the least. But I'll get to more in a review. But absolutely, really good. I know I already talked about it a little bit in my last update mid-month. So anyway, then I did read Frankenstein as I promised. I promised to at least read one. I kept my promise, even though I had to kick Sandman Act 2 out of the way to make room for some other things. Frankenstein was good. At first I was like, it took some time getting into. It was written in 1818, or at least published in 1818, so it was written before then. It was, it's definitely that kind of, it's a classic. It's got the classic kind of writing, and it's a little a little dated in its writing. And I may have to get into this, but I mean, come on, it's been a couple hundred years. If you haven't read it by now, right, I might be the last one to read it. A lot of things that kind of stood out to me. Well, first of all was that you get used to it. You get used to the writing style, and actually I ended up enjoying the book by the end. So I appreciate you guys kind of forcing my hand to read it finally. So at least I've read it, and that's good. Is it my favorite book in the world? No. And was it completely different than I ever thought it would be? Absolutely. I mean, my first instinct was to go, it's pronounced Frankenstein. So, Mel Brooks movie, Young Frankenstein, that's what I know about it. But the focus, let's just say, really isn't at all about making the monster. That's almost like a side note in the book, which I was very surprised about. It's it's the aftermath and then all that I can talk about. But anyway, definitely way different than I ever imagined it to be, what pop culture imagines it to be, and is focused on like literally the one part that I think might have been like 2 lines in the whole book addressing it. I mean, there's a whole section, I guess, addressing the whole thing, but really, anyway, just so much less devoted to it than I ever thought. But it was good. It was good. Then I did read, so this was part of the switch that I had to get ready for a live stream. So doing a live stream, continuing my series with J.R. Carroll and JCM Byrne, the Joes, on J.R. Carroll's channel. We do have one coming up this Sunday. So this time we were on The Time of Contempt, Witcher book number 2. Technically book number 2, like novel number 2, but in the grand scheme of things, really book number 4, I would say, because there's 2 short story collections, starting with The Last Wish. So anyway, definitely, and I think, I don't know, just some of the insights in those short story collections, I think are pretty important to kind of some of the relationships. So I think it's important to read those. So that's why I'm like, it's technically book 2, but I don't really consider it that at all. You know, you'll find really we go deep into these on the live stream. I have to say, I went back and forth. I feel like I left the books at home for some reason, a couple of the books that I'm going to talk about today. But one of them I do have, the Blood of Elves. I think I liked Blood of Elves a little better than Time of Contempt, but it's still up there. I very much enjoyed it. They love to talk about everything being in contempt. It means a little bit different thing to a lawyer. Everything was contempt in that book. It just mentions it over and over again. But it was good. It really gets into those characters really well. Anyway, I'll have a lot more thoughts coming up here. You know, it's still on par. It's still on par. Maybe my least favorite so far though, but barely. All right, so that was the 3 books that I read. It was more like 4 or 5. I mean, if you count the page count in Swan Song, which is just ridiculously high. So I feel pretty good about the month. It was a very steady reading month, kept it going. There is a live stream coming up, so I'm all ready for that. Had a good month channel-wise, if you want to know at all. I'll have links down below if you want to skip ahead. But channel-wise, really did pretty well. Had a good, helps when you talk about Patrick Rothfuss. I was very frustrated with the whole situation and just the lack of communication, and then the lack of just complete lack of respect for the fans. I get it that there's a healthy amount of lack of respect for him that the fans have had. I don't know. If you make a promise, keep it. That's like the big thing, and we really should be a little more hesitant to be giving money again. That's what I'm gathering from it. Again, all opinion. But anyway, that did really well for the channel, so there we go. Jumping into November, how's November looking? Let's talk. First things first is that I did start this at the end of October. I have started Red Seas Under Red Skies by Scott Lynch. This is Gentlemen Bastards number 2. Love Liza Locke-Lamora. I've reread it now. One time I did a live stream with Murphy Napier, Grace Dion, and then Overly Average Ben, which those are just 3 great people, amazing people to do a live stream with. Very insightful, really changed my understanding of a book that I already have loved and have read twice now. So I'm very excited to do a live stream and talk about Red Seas Under Red Skies with the same group, so that'll be really fun. Just a wonderful group, really, like I said, very insightful. I learned a lot, so I'm ready to already learn a lot more about Red Seas Under Red Skies, even though I'm only like a quarter of the way into the book. It's been excellent so far, by the way, so I am loving every second of it. Still kind of doing the like flash forward, flash back thing, but you're not flashing back quite as far, I guess, which was interesting. This is definitely one of my favorite covers of all time. Love it. I'll let you know in the community tab when we actually are doing that live stream. Then I downloaded Soul Fraud. This is an audiobook by Andrew Givler. That is, some may know as Sigils on YouTube. You're definitely going to know him way before me. My son's obsessed, and speaking of which, part of the reason I got this, it helps to know good people, and having friends of a friend is amazing. And so I was able to use some of my YouTube connections, thanks to Ramble. Don't go attack them, because they're amazing. But check out their channel and definitely subscribe if you haven't already, and subscribe to Sigils. Sigils I will be a lifelong fan of. He did something for me, for my son, that I don't know if I can express just how kind and nice this was. He filmed a happy birthday video for my son, just one specifically for him. And it just meant the world. I mean, I got all the brownie points in the history of the world as a dad. But just for this to happen, just because I talk books at this silly channel, and I appreciate, gosh, everything that you guys do to just support. And that's been one of these things that has made this such a cool experience for me. And you know, there's a lot of time, a lot of dedication that goes into filming these videos and editing. It may not look like it, but to really have it pay off in these meaningful moments has just been awesome. And so that's really cool. That's just one of the many moments, right? The many moments of just, and most of them just come down to just interacting with you guys and just the friends that I've made through you guys. So thank you guys for being my friend. Enjoying, that's why I put in every description, be my friend. Let's talk books, let's do something that's just fun. That's one thing. I mean, just in getting to know, for instance, like Murphy Napier, for instance, she may have a channel with almost 500,000 subscribers, but like she loves books and it exudes out of everything she does. And she loves talking about them with friends and diving in, and you can just see that. Not only does she have her channel where she brings people into hers, she goes and appears on all kinds of channels all over the place because she loves talking books, and you can just see that love just exude. And I think that's one of the many reasons she's so successful. And so that's just part of this love and joy. And sorry to gush about this. It's such a cool experience to just have this, and why I just want to keep doing it, because it's so much fun and so rewarding, even though it's not like I'm making like tons of money off of this, right? Not everything needs to be about money, and this is one of those things that's just been such a fun passion to pursue, and I love it. All right, speaking of which, let's get back to the TBR. Speaking of all the things that I love, I did say, so I'm booting Sandman Act 2 to this month of November, so definitely be looking forward to that. I am excited. It's been too long. I'm trying to just keep up on the series. I have a mood reading habit of just trying to jump into everything, which you will definitely see. I just started my video series of my top 100. You're going to get into all the books soon of just the first book in a series that I've read and not the rest of the series. I know you probably think I'm crazy, but this is how a true mood reader functions. It's so bad. And I still have all those book series on my list to read. Speaking of book series to read, I do want to get my original TBR for the year underway, but Absolution Gap by Alistair Reynolds. This has been a great series. Revelation Space. First two I absolutely loved, and then there's a prequel, Chasm City, which is amazing. It's the best of the three so far, so I'm excited for Absolution Gap as well. These have just been excellent books, and this is going to conclude a trilogy and mark off one of my 10 completed series that I wanted to get in the last year, and have totally missed that complete goal. But we're getting there. All right, finally, this is just one that if I do have the time, I would like to get to it, because this has been, Howard Andrew Jones has been on my list of authors to read for ages. And so I've been wanting to read, and then he reached out, sent me not only this one, but also the sequel already that I cannot wait to read. I've heard great things about it so far. And so I've been meaning to read Howard Andrew Jones. I have multiple books already by him on my shelf. They've been on there for way too long. And so I'm very much excited to read some Howard Andrew Jones here. Some sword and sorcery, some classic, stuff that I just love. I love Elric. I love those kinds of these, Conan's great. And this will be great to get, a new, I think his name is Hanavar. Hanavar will hopefully be a new one of those greats of the sword and sorcery genre. Anyway, I only heard good things so far, and I'm very excited to jump into it. So anyway, that is my TBR. That's also my monthly update. Thank you so much for stopping by. Thanks for liking and subscribing. If this is something you end up enjoying, you never know. Anyway, we'll catch you later. Bye.